They called it an uneventful sector, a thin stretch of frozen dirt and rust-colored stone just south of the Kunar River, barely large enough for tents, radios, a few fighting positions, and a decade of dust. Too small to matter, too remote to care, too quiet to fear. At least, that's what Command believed. But the Marines who stood watch there, they knew better. They knew that some outposts didn't need enemies to feel wrong. Some places carried a pressure, a low, steady hum beneath the ground, like a buried engine turning in the dark. At OP Ghost Line, that hum never stopped. The outpost earned its unofficial name in its first week, not because of what the Marines saw, not because of anything physical, but because of what they heard. It began with a strange pop on the radio net, a sharp distortion, like someone bumping a microphone on another channel. Then came a whisper, soft, dry, almost like wind passing through broken teeth. At first, they blamed interference, until the voice said something that froze every man in the tent. It said a name, Private Caleb Morris. But Morris wasn't holding a radio. He wasn't transmitting. He wasn't even awake. He was outside the tent, kicking sand from his boots. When he heard it, his own name, spoken in his own voice, echoing from inside the comm tent, he rushed in. "Who the hell said my name?" The operator swallowed hard. "Morris, that wasn't us," the radio hissed. Then Morris's voice, his exact tone, cadence, and breath, spoke again. "Caleb, you awake?" Every Marine fell silent. The radio was on receive only. No one had keyed the mic. No one was transmitting. And then Morris realized something that chilled him. He had spoken those exact words, in that exact tone, 2 nights earlier, during First Watch. It wasn't live audio. It was a recording no one made, a recording that should not exist. From that night on, the outpost whispered, and the Marines whispered back. Ghost Line is talking again. It started with names, then full sentences, then entire conversations, playing back hours after they were spoken. Some of the voices belonged to men on duty, some belonged to men sleeping, and some belonged to men who had already gone missing. Command blamed stress, heat, fatigue, always something human, always something simple. But I'm Captain Nightwhisper, and I've learned one thing from stories like these. Radios only repeat what they've already received, unless something else is speaking through them. And at OP Ghost Line, something was speaking, something that sounded human, something that remembered names, something that knew the men better than their own brothers, something waiting for another outpost to make the same mistake OP Rock made, building on a hill that wasn't empty, building where the dead still answered. This is the story of Ghost Line, the outpost that talked back. The first real incident happened at 0234, a time of night when even the wind seems to hesitate, a time when the outpost feels suspended between worlds. Corporal Jensen was on comm duty, a quiet Marine, the kind of man who didn't scare easily, who believed problems always had simple explanations. Until Ghost Line proved him wrong. He was sipping stale coffee, half asleep, listening to the low hum of static, when the radio crackled twice, sharp, sudden, like a knuckle tapping the inside of the speaker. He straightened, checked the net. Any unit transmitting? Silence. Then a faint breath came through, not static. A breath. Human. Close to the mic, far too close. Jensen froze. Identify yourself. The radio clicked once. Then again, as if someone was keying the mic with a trembling hand. Reyes, is that you? Jensen whispered. But Reyes was asleep. Everyone was. The breath came again. Longer this time, more deliberate. followed by a sentence that hollowed Jensen's chest. The voice said, "Don't go outside." Jensen's pulse hammered. He reached for the tent flap, peered into the darkness. Nothing moved. Nothing breathed. The outpost was still, too still. "Who said that?" he hissed. The radio answered, not with words, but with his own voice, playing back something he had said earlier that evening. "I'll be right back." Jensen felt the blood drain from his face. He had whispered that phrase privately, alone, while stepping out to take a piss. No one could have recorded it. No one even heard him say it. But the radio had, or something using the radio had. Jensen's hands shook as he keyed the mic. "All units, be advised. Something's wrong with the net." But before he could finish, the radio cut him off, with a single word, spoken in a voice he had never heard on a military channel. "Stay." Deep, cold, rasping, as if spoken through cracked lungs. Jensen stumbled back, knocked over his chair, eyes fixed on the radio. Then the outpost generator flickered, lights dimmed, shadows stretched long across the tent floor, and for a single, impossible second, the radio transmitted something Jensen would never forget. The sound of boots walking behind him, slow, deliberate, crunching softly through the dirt. Even though he was alone in the tent, Jensen spun around, rifle half raised, but there was nothing. Only the impression of someone having stood behind him, a shape that hadn't fully faded, and then the radio clicked one final time. Soft, almost gentle, like a whisper brushing past his ear. "I'm already inside." Jensen didn't sleep for 2 days after that, and Ghostline earned its name, not because it was haunted, but because something on that hill had learned how to speak and had chosen the radios as its tongue. The morning after Jensen's incident, Ghostline felt heavier, as if the air itself remembered what happened, as if the outpost woke up with the Marines, listening to their fear. Sergeant Reyes gathered the night watch. Jensen stood stiff, pale, clutching his notebook like a life raft. He didn't want to talk, but Reyes insisted. "What exactly did you hear?" Jensen swallowed. "My voice, something breathing, footsteps behind me, and a word." Reyes frowned. "A word?" Jensen nodded once. "Stay." The squad exchanged uneasy glances. But Marines don't break over words. They break when words start making sense. And Ghostline had only just begun. To prove Jensen wasn't imagining things, Reyes ordered a radio check. Simple, clean, routine. Every man keyed the mic, confirmed call signs, passed the check. Then Reyes switched the net to monitor only. No transmission allowed. No one touching a mic. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then the speaker popped, the exact sound Jensen described, and the radio began to play a recording, a full sentence, in Reyes's own voice. Perfect pitch, perfect breath, perfect tone. "Everyone stay inside the wire after sunset." The Marines froze. Reyes felt a cold knot twist in his stomach, because he hadn't said that yet. Not today, not last night, not recently, but the words were familiar. He had said them 4 days ago, to Dixon, outside the tent. While the radio was off, Private Morris whispered, "Sarge, that's impossible." Reyes didn't answer. The radio crackled again, as if responding, as if correcting him. "Not impossible." Every Marine stepped back, eyes locked on the speaker, feet planted as if facing an enemy. Reyes forced himself to speak. "Who is this? Identify." Static rolled like a shifting breath, then a distorted voice, layered, broken, parroting its own words. "Told you, stay inside," Corporal Dixon whispered. "Sarge, that's your voice again, but corrupted." The radio clicked, once, twice, then played a third phrase, a phrase no one on Ghost Line had ever spoken aloud, but one they all felt, deep in their bones. "Everybody when you're together." The speaker buzzed, lights flickered, the outpost seemed to exhale, then silence, thick, unbroken, suffocating. The Marines stared at each other, not panicking, not breaking, but understanding, finally understanding. Ghost Line wasn't replaying their voices by accident. It was picking sentences, moments, breaths, from when the men were most vulnerable. Private Morris whispered what everyone feared. "What if it's recording us? All the time?" No one answered, because there was only one truth, and it tasted like metal in their mouths. Something was listening, something was remembering, and something on that hill had learned how to talk. The third incident began with a name, not shouted, not whispered, but spoken softly, intimately, as if someone were leaning inches from the mic. It happened just after midnight, when the outpost felt hollow, when even the dust seemed too tired to move. Private Lewis was on watch. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't a jumpy kid. He had survived far worse than radio noise. But nothing prepares a man for hearing his name, spoken by something he can't see. The radio clicked. Then a breath leaked through, slow, wet, uneven, and a single word followed. "Lewis." Lewis stiffened. He scanned the darkness, checked the sectors, raised his NVGs. Nothing. The hill was dead, silent. He keyed the mic. "Who's calling me? Identify." Silence. Then the voice returned, clearer this time, more deliberate. "Lewis, turn around." Lewis spun, rifle raised, heart slamming like a fist in his chest. No one was behind him, only the sandbags, only the cold, only the night. He keyed up again. "Dixon, Reyes, someone messing with the net?" But the squad leaders were asleep. The comm tent was empty. The radios were locked to a single frequency. The voice didn't care. "Lewis." "I'm right here." Lewis felt a chill crawl down his spine. Not like fear, more like recognition. Like something familiar was wearing his name. He stepped backward, slow, controlled. "Last warning," he growled. "Identify or get off my channel." The radio answered instantly, not with words, but with a sound that didn't belong on human channels. A heartbeat, a slow, thick, wet heartbeat, amplified through the speaker. Lewis froze. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but Marines don't run. Not from shadows, not from ghosts, not from radios. He forced himself to speak. "What do you want?" The heartbeat paused. Then the voice whispered. "You dropped something." Lewis blinked. "Dropped what?" The voice chuckled. Low, wrong, not human. "Your fear." Lewis stumbled back, kicked over an ammo can, breathing hard, and the voice delivered its final sentence. The one that cracked him, the one he would remember until the day he died. "You tasted like this, the last time you were here." Lewis ran, full sprint, straight to the command tent, screaming for Reyes. When the sergeant dragged him inside and locked the flap, Lewis could barely form words. All he kept repeating was, "It knows me. It knows my name. It knows what I sound like. It knows I've been here before." Reyes grabbed his shoulders. "You've never been here before, Private." Lewis stared at him, trembling. "I think that's the problem, Sarge. Something out there thinks I have." And for the first time since arriving at Ghost Line, Reyes felt something he hadn't felt since OP Rock. The outpost wasn't haunted. It was remembering, and it remembered Lewis, even if Lewis had never met it. The fourth incident didn't start with a radio. It started with a camera, a cheap, sun-bleached thermal unit mounted on a wooden post overlooking the south sector. It wasn't high-tech, it wasn't new, it barely worked on most nights. But on that particular night, it recorded something no human eye could explain. Corporal Dixon was reviewing the night's footage, not because he wanted to, but because Reyes insisted. "We need proof," the sergeant said. "Proof of anything. Footsteps, voices, shadows, something to show command before the men fell apart." Dixon scrubbed through hours of nothing. Dust clouds, static, the occasional moth glowing white in the thermal. Then he stopped, eyes narrowing, mouth going dry. "Reyes, you need to see this." The sergeant leaned over his shoulder. "What am I looking at?" Dixon pointed. "That's Alvarez, walking patrol." Reyes nodded. Alvarez was unmistakable. Broad shoulders, slight limp, same gait as always. He was moving along the outer barrier. Thermal signature, bright, warm, alive. Then Dixon hit play on the second feed. Different camera, different angle, different part of the outpost. Reyes blinked. In a way, because Alvarez was there too. At the same moment, same second, walking on the opposite side of the outpost, two identical thermal signatures, two identical strides, two identical men, moving at the same pace, at the same time, on opposite ends of Ghost Line. Reyes whispered, "Run both feeds together." Dixon synced them. The two Alvarezes walked in perfect mirror timing. Right foot, left foot, turn, tilt of the head, everything identical, like someone was copying him, or something. Reyes whispered, "Where was Alvarez in real life?" Dixon swallowed. "In the comm tent, sleeping." Reyes felt the temperature drop around him. Not wind, not cold air. A presence, a heaviness. The sensation of being watched by something just outside the edge of comprehension. Dixon rewound the feed, played it again. And a third time, same result. Two Alvarezes. Except on the fourth playback, something changed. Something subtle, something horrifying. On the left feed, Alvarez's copy turned its head, not toward the perimeter, not toward the path, but directly into the camera, as if it knew it was being watched. Its face was bright white on thermal, but something in the shape was wrong. The angles too long, the eyes too large, the heat pooling in places where a human skull should be cool. Reyes stepped back. "What the hell is that?" Dixon said nothing. He just zoomed in, and when he did, they both saw it. A faint second outline, like a heat signature layered over the real one. A double image, a parasite of light, clinging to the shape of a man. Reyes whispered, "That's not Alvarez." The figure on the feed tilted its head a few degrees further. Too far, too smoothly. Bones don't allow that kind of motion. Then the camera glitched. Static. Warp. Cut. When the feed returned, the figure was gone. Both versions, the real and the copy, replaced by a perfectly silent, perfectly empty outpost. Reyes exhaled slowly. "Dixon, delete the copy. Save the original." Dixon hesitated. "Why delete it?" Reyes stared at the dark screen, jaw tight. "Because whatever was looking into that camera might not be done copying us." The night everything escalated began quietly, too quietly. The kind of quiet that makes men shift their weight, check their rifles, and scan the dark twice. Reyes had ordered an early lights out. Morale was dropping, sleep was thin, and the men needed rest. But Ghost Line didn't care about rest. It cared about attention. And that night, it wanted all of theirs. Just past 0200, the first radio snapped on by itself. A sharp, metallic pop. Then a long hiss. like steam escaping from a cracked pipe. Dixon woke instantly. He sat up, listened, waited. Then the second radio activated, then the third, then the fourth. Within seconds, every operational radio on Ghostline powered up simultaneously. Even the ones not connected to generators. Even the ones without batteries. Reyes burst from his tent, boots half-laced, eyes scanning. "What the hell is going on?" Dixon pointed toward the comm tent. "Sarge, the radios turned themselves on." Reyes frowned. "That's impossible." But the radios disagreed. One by one, their speakers crackled. Not randomly, not chaotically, but in a pattern, a rhythm, a pulse, like breathing. Then a voice came through. Not one radio, all of them, speaking at the same time, perfectly synced. "Eagle, tonight." The Marines froze. Jensen whispered, "No, no, 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 that's my voice." And it was. Every radio on Ghostline had just spoken using Jensen's voice. Reyes stepped closer, jaw tight. "Comm check. Identify." The radios answered in unison. "Identify, identify, identify." Layered, stacked, like multiple versions of Jensen speaking together. Then a second voice joined. Deeper, gravel thick, unsettling. "Not alone." The men backed away, hands trembling, rifles raised. Dixon whispered, "There's something on the net with us, Sarge." The radios responded immediately. "Yes," Reyes snapped. "Shut them down, now." The Marines lunged toward the power units, pulling plugs, yanking cables, ripping out batteries. But the radios stayed on, every single one, glowing, humming, alive. Then the lights across the outpost flickered. Once, twice, and the radios spoke a third time. Not as Jensen, not as Reyes, but as someone else entirely. A voice with no breath behind it. No humanity. A perfect dead echo. "Why do you run?" The generator surged. The outpost groaned. Dust fell from the tent frames. Then the radios screamed. Not voices, not words, but a deafening blast of static. So loud the men dropped to their knees, hands over their ears. The sound lasted 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15, and then, just as suddenly as it began, silence. All radios shut off, at the exact same moment, leaving the outpost in darkness and an unnatural stillness. Lewis whispered into the quiet. What do we do now?" Reyes exhaled slowly. "We brace ourselves." Because the hill wasn't done, not yet. It had only just learned how to speak together. What mattered next was what it would say. After the night the radios spoke together, sleep became a luxury. Men lay awake listening to the wind scrape against the Hesco walls, listening to their own breathing, listening for anything that didn't belong. But Ghostline had grown bold. It wasn't finished. And what happened next would make even the bravest Marines dread the sound of their own gear. It began at 03 Watt. Jensen was back on comm duty, hands shaking slightly every time a light blinked on the console. Reyes lingered outside the tent, pretending to check the perimeter. But really, he was listening, waiting. The first sound came quietly, a faint tap, metal against metal, like someone nudging a rifle butt against the side of a vehicle. Jensen froze. He leaned closer to the radio. "Dixon, you hearing that?" Dixon's voice whispered through the headset. "That's not coming from my channel, brother." Then the second tap, stronger, closer, followed by a third and a fourth. A rhythm, a pattern, not random. Bootsteps. Heavy, measured, deliberate, marching. Jensen keyed up. "All units, radios are picking up footsteps." Reyes rushed inside. Where? Which channel? Jensen swallowed. Every channel, Sarge. Reyes blinked. That doesn't make sense. But the radios disagreed. They crackled, shifted, and the boots grew louder. Left, right, left, right, pacing around the outpost, as if circling it, as if mapping it. Lewis stumbled into the tent, pale, sweat running down his neck. Sarge, I'm hearing it outside too. Reyes stiffened. Outside where? Lewis lifted a trembling hand. Behind the showers, heavy boots, pacing back and forth. The radio amplified the steps. Closer now, nearer, so loud the tent fabric vibrated. Jensen whispered, "They're right next to us." Reyes grabbed his rifle. "Everyone out. We're checking the perimeter." The Marines spilled into the cold night, weapons raised, scanning the darkness with trembling NVGs. The boots continued, marching, circling, surrounding them, but the ground was undisturbed. No footprints, no dust kicked up, no shadows, just sound, everywhere. All at once, Dixon whispered, "It's like they're walking with us." Then the radios crackled again, and the footsteps stopped. Instantly, abruptly, silence, sharp, cut clean from the world. Reyes lifted his radio slowly. "Ghost line, if someone is out there, identify right now." The reply was immediate, loud, clear, cold. "Behind you." Every Marine spun, rifles up. Nothing, not a single shape, not a single movement. Only the dead black outline of the Heska wall. Then the footsteps resumed, not around them, not beside them, but through them, passing under their boots, across the dirt, inside the outpost. Jensen broke first. "What kind of footsteps go through people, Sarge?" Reyes didn't answer, because there was only one truth left to face. Whatever was pacing Ghost Line that night wasn't a man, wasn't alive, and wasn't outside the wire anymore. It was already in the middle of the outpost, walking slowly, patiently, as if counting how many living souls were still left on that hill. The seventh incident didn't begin with footsteps, or whispers, or someone's name on the net. It began with a transmission, a simple one, routine, boring, the kind of message that should have been forgettable. But Ghostline didn't allow anything to stay normal, not for long. At 1910, Reyes sent a standard sit-rep to battalion. Weather stable, visibility moderate, patrol routes unchanged, no contact, no movement, nothing unusual. He spoke clearly, calmly, professionally, ending with the normal sign-off. Ghost line out. Jensen logged the transmission, time-stamped it, saved the recording. Everything worked. Everything was normal. For the moment. Then battalion responded, a full minute later, sounding confused, irritated, tired. Ghost line. Repeat your last. Transmission never arrived. Reyes frowned. We sent it, clean and clear. Battalion replied. No, we didn't receive anything. Jensen rechecked the console. The log confirmed it. The message had gone out. He even replayed the audio file. Perfect quality. No interference. Reyes keyed up again. Sending sitrep one more time. He repeated the message. Slow. Clear. Word for word. Battalion answered immediately. We got that one. No issues. Reyes shrugged. Maybe a glitch. But inside, he knew better. An hour later, the glitch proved him right. At 2042, every radio in the tent activated. Not violently, not with static, but with Reyes's voice. His sitrep. The first one, the one battalion supposedly never received, played back perfectly, word for word. Same tone, same breath, same inflection. Except one thing was different: the sign-off. Reyes had ended the real transmission with "Ghost line out," but the playback said, "Ghost line, alone." Lewis stood slowly. What did it say? Jensen swallowed. Not what the Sarge said. That's for damn sure. Reyes rewound the recording, played it again. "Ghost line, alone." The lights flickered. Dust drifted from the ceiling canvas. Dixon whispered, "Sarge, this is your voice, but you never said that." Reyes stepped back, eyes dark, breath shallow. "Delete it." Jensen hovered over the delete command, but before he pressed it, the playback started again, on its own, without being selected. Alone, 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 layered, echoed, growing louder, as if more voices were joining, as if the hill itself wanted them to hear. Reyes lunged for the power switch, killing the radios, killing the lights, plunging the tent into darkness. The voices stopped, instantly. For 10 long seconds, no one breathed, no one moved, no one dared speak. Then Lewis whispered the sentence that chilled every man in the tent. "Sarge, what if the hill kept your transmission and sent back its own version?" Reyes didn't answer, because deep down, he feared Lewis was right. They weren't just picking up stray signals. They weren't just hearing echoes of their own voices. Ghostline was learning, repeating, changing, mimicking, improving, and now it had started sending messages back. Messages meant only for the men still trapped on that hill. The 8th incident happened on a night so dark it felt unnatural. No moon, no stars, no glow from distant villages, just a thick, suffocating void pressed against the outpost. Dixon was assigned to radio watch, not because he wanted to, but because Reyes trusted him. He was steady, grounded, not easily rattled, but Ghostline didn't care how steady a man was. It only cared how long he could listen. At 01:53, Dixon poured himself a cup of instant coffee. His hands were tired, eyes heavy. He blinked once, twice, trying to stay awake. Then he froze, because he wasn't alone. He didn't hear anything, didn't see movement, but something in the air shifted, a presence, a weight, as if another body were in the room, breathing, waiting. Dixon whispered, "Reyes, you in here?" No answer. He scanned the tent. Shadows lay thick along the canvas walls, pooling in corners, stretching under tables. Then he noticed the chair, the old wooden one in front of the primary radio, a chair no one ever used, because it creaked so loud it betrayed anyone trying to sit. The chair was occupied, not by a man, not by anything solid, but by a shape, a dark outline, sitting perfectly still, perfectly upright, back turned to Dixon, head bowed slightly toward the radio. Dixon's throat tightened. He stepped backward, slowly, carefully, his rifle slipping in his sweaty grip. Who's in the chair?" The shape didn't move, didn't shift, didn't breathe. It just sat there, facing the radio, as if listening, as if waiting for Dixon to speak. Then the radio powered on, by itself, a low hum building through the speaker. Dixon whispered, "No, no, not again." Static bled into the tent, soft, controlled, almost like someone was exhaling into the mic. Then a voice came through. Not Reyes, not Jensen, not Morris. It was Dixon's own voice. "Don't look at me!" Dixon staggered back, eyes locked on the shadow in the chair. The radio repeated him. Same tone, same breath, same quiet fear. "Don't look at me," Dixon whispered. I never said that." The shadow shifted. Barely. A slight tilt of the head, as if acknowledging him, as if agreeing. Then the radio spoke a third time, but not in Dixon's voice. This time it was deeper, colder, hollow. "Sit down." The chair creaked, just once. A long, slow groan of old wood bending, as if something invisible had put more weight on it. Dixon's heartbeat hammered. His breath stuttered. He stumbled for the tent flap. "Sit," the voice repeated. "Down." The shadow rose, not like a person, not lifting itself with muscle, but rising in one smooth, unnatural line, like smoke reversing gravity. Dixon bolted from the tent, screaming for Reyes, falling into the dirt as he ran. Reyes and 3 Marines rushed in, weapons raised. The chair was empty, the room cold, the radio dead, but something else was wrong. The chair, the one nobody used, the one too loud to sit in, the one that hadn't moved in months, had been pulled out, turned slightly, as if someone had just stood up from it. Reyes swallowed. "Dixon, what did you see?" Dixon shook his head, eyes wide, voice trembling. "It wasn't sitting in the chair, Sarge. It was waiting in it." And that night, none of the Marines slept. Because the outpost wasn't watching them anymore, it was joining them, taking seats, taking space, taking form, learning how to be human, one shadow at a time. By the 9th incident, the men of Ghostline had already accepted one terrifying truth. Whatever haunted the radios wasn't outside, wasn't on another channel, wasn't interference. It was on the hill with them, inside the wire, moving freely, hearing everything, repeating anything. But nothing prepared them for the moment it spoke from a place no human should ever be. It happened just after sunset, the heat of the day finally bleeding out of the stones, the kind of quiet that settles before something breaks. Private Morris and Corporal Jensen were checking the generator. Routine stuff, fuel lines, voltage, stability, talking softly to keep their nerves calm. Then a voice drifted from the far side of the outpost. Close, too close. "Jensen." Jensen froze. He looked at Morris. Morris shook his head. "That wasn't me, man." The voice came again, clearer, crisper, as if the speaker were standing behind the sandbags. "Jensen, over here." Jensen raised his rifle. "Morris, check the corner, now." Morris moved along the Hesco wall, slow, deliberate, every sense on edge. "Who's there?" he called. No answer. Then the voice whispered. "You passed me." Morris spun, heart slamming. "Jensen, it's inside the fucker wire." Jensen keyed his radio. "Reyes, we've got movement inside perimeter. Audio contact." But the reply wasn't Reyes. It was Jensen's own voice, coming through every radio on the hill. "Audio contact, inside perimeter." Jensen stared at the handheld. "That's not me. I didn't say it like that." The voice answered immediately. "I know." Both Marines backed up, weapons raised, scanning the darkness. Then they heard it, a soft crunch of gravel, as if someone had stepped lightly. Right behind the fuel barrels, Jensen whispered, "Light it up." Morris flipped on his flashlight. A bright cone of light slashed across the barrels. Nothing, just empty space, dust, old metal. Then the voice came again, from the exact spot the flashlight illuminated, but no one was standing there. "Closer." Both Marines stumbled backward, breathing ragged. Jensen hissed, "Reyes, we've got a mimic in the perimeter. It's inside the fuck up." Reyes responded instantly. "Hold position. We're coming." Boots thundered from across the outpost. Dixon, Lewis, Reyes himself, weapons raised. But before they reached the generator pit, every radio on Ghostline activated, all at once. Inside, echoing, layered, growing louder. The lights flickered. The generator sputtered. Morris grabbed Jensen's arm. "It's moving, man. It's moving around us. Fast. Too fast." The radios screamed, a burst of static, like metal tearing. Then, silence. Cold. Complete. Dead. Reyes reached them. "What direction did it go?" Morris pointed at the empty space beside the barrels, then at the sandbags, then at the shadows, voice trembling. "Sarge, it didn't go anywhere. It was never moving." Jensen swallowed. "Then what the hell were we hearing?" Morris whispered. "Not movement, not footsteps. It was copying movement." Reyes stared at the generator, at the shadows, at the radios still cooling down. Something was wrong, something deeper, something older, and the realization settled in all their chests at once. Ghostline wasn't just repeating their voices, it was repeating their presence, their locations, their movements, their patterns. The hill wasn't echoing them, it was learning them. The 10th incident began with a sound no Marine on Ghostline ever wanted to hear again. A scream, but not the kind that comes from fear, or injury, or even pain. This scream came from a throat that was never meant to exist. It started at 0246, a cold, black hour. When the entire outpost seemed to hold its breath, Lewis was on the northern berm, scanning the low ridgeline, eyes half-focused, mind drifting. Then he heard it. Not from the valley, not from the wire, but from directly behind him. A scream, raw, jagged, like metal grinding against metal, like a rusted hinge being torn open. Lewis stumbled, dropped his NVGs, spun with his rifle raised, but nothing was there. Only the dead dirt, the thin air, the silent Hesco wall. "Jensen, did you hear that?" he whispered into the radio. Before Jensen could answer, the scream hit again, louder, closer, ripping through the outpost like a blade. Reyes bolted from his tent. "Positions! Everyone on me!" Dixon sprinted to the mortar pit. Jensen rushed out of the comm tent. Morris froze in place, hands shaking. Then the third scream erupted, and this time, every man on Ghostline heard it. It didn't rise like a human voice. It expanded, like it was unfolding from inside the rocks, inside the sand, inside the bones of the hill. It vibrated through rib cages, down spines, across the ground itself. Jensen gasped. "Sarge, that didn't come from a person?" No one disagreed. Reyes whispered, "Direction?" But no one could answer, because the scream wasn't directional. It didn't travel. It didn't echo. It didn't move. It was everywhere, all at once. Lewis dropped to one knee, hands pressed over his ears. "It's inside my helmet!" Dixon shouted. "It's in the earth, Sarge! It's coming out of the damn ground!" The radios crackled, one by one, all powering on without being touched. Static hissed, loud, angry, like the scream was trying to force itself through the speakers. Reyes yelled, "Shut them down!" But the radios didn't shut down. They synchronized, all at once, and played the scream through every speaker, every channel, every frequency. The same inhuman, tearing shriek, layered, multiplied, as if 1,000 throats were opening at once. The lights flickered, the generator sputtered, the ground trembled. Then, silence, total, absolute, smothering. Reyes stood in the center of the outpost, chest heaving. "What the hell was that?" No one answered. No one could, because every man knew, deep in the primitive part of the mind, the part that remembers danger older than civilization. That scream didn't come from any living creature, not one that walks, not one that breathes, not one that bleeds. It came from something buried, something old, something waking. Ghostline hadn't just learned to speak, It had learned to call, and whatever it called to had finally answered. The 11th incident didn't start with a scream, or a voice, or footsteps. It started with silence, a silence so deep it felt engineered, like the hill itself was holding its breath. Reyes had ordered a 2-man perimeter sweep. Standard procedure, nothing unusual, just a slow walk along the wire to calm the men after the scream. Dixon and Morris volunteered, or maybe they just didn't want to stay near the radios. They grabbed their rifles, checked their NVGs, and disappeared into the narrow path between the Hesco walls. Reyes watched them go, a knot forming in his chest, a feeling he didn't recognize at first. Instinct, warning, memory, the same feeling he'd had on OP Rock, right before the lost hour. "Stay sharp," he called after them, but neither Marine looked back. 2 minutes passed, then 3, then 5. Reyes keyed the mic. "Dixon, Morris, status check." Silence. He tried again. "Dixon, Morris, respond." The radios hissed, but no voices came through. Jensen frowned. "Sarge, they're not answering any channel." Reyes felt the air tighten. "Get eyes on them. NVGs, now!" Lewis and Jensen climbed the tower, scanning the perimeter, searching the shadows. Sector 1, clear. Sector 2, clear. Sector 3, I don't see. Lewis stopped breathing. "Sarge, they're not on the wire." Jensen lowered the NVGs. "They're just gone." Reyes sprinted toward the outer berm, boots hammering the dirt, heart slamming, every step heavier. He turned the corner, expecting to see footprints, or rifles, or anything, but the path was empty, undisturbed, as if no one had walked it in hours. Reyes whispered, "No, no, they were just here." Then the radios snapped on, all at once. "Sarge?" Reyes froze. "That's Dixon. Trace it. What channel is that?" Jensen checked the board, eyes widening. "All of them, Sarge. He's on every channel." The voice came again. "Sarge, where are we?" Reyes yelled into the mic. "Dixon, Morris, hold your position. What do you see?" Static, crackling, sharp. Then Morris's voice broke through. But wrong, faint, unsteady, as if coming from underwater. "We hear you, but we can't find you," Lewis whispered. "They sound close, but far at the same time." Reyes shouted, "Describe your location." Silence, long, heavy. Then Dixon answered. "It's dark, darker than it should be," Morris added. "We're standing, but we're not. Standing anywhere." Reyes felt his blood go cold. "Are you inside the wire?" Dixon hesitated. "We don't know." Then came the worst part, the part that made every Marine on Ghost Line step back. Jensen pointed toward the tower. "Sarge, look!" Reyes turned, slow, and his stomach dropped, because Dixon and Morris were standing in the middle of the outpost, both of them, shoulder to shoulder, looking around in confusion. They hadn't approached, they hadn't walked, they hadn't returned. They were just there, suddenly, instantly, like someone had placed them back, like someone was done borrowing them. Reyes ran to them, grabbed their shoulders. "Where the hell were you?" Both men shook, eyes wide, breathing ragged. Dixon whispered, "We were gone for hours." Reyes blinked. "You were gone for less than 3 minutes." Morris trembled. No, Sarge. We heard you calling us for a long time. A long time." Reyes looked at Jensen. "Did we call them?" Jensen shook his head slowly. "No, Sarge. We only called once." Dixon swallowed. "What do you mean, once?" Morris whispered. "We heard you calling us 30 times. Every man fell silent, a cold realization spreading through their chests. Dixon and Morris hadn't disappeared. Time had, the hill hadn't moved them. It had moved around them, bent, shifted, twisted, and for 3 minutes, Ghostline had taken them somewhere else, somewhere they couldn't describe, somewhere they couldn't remember, somewhere they were never meant to return from. After Dixon and Morris returned, Reyes ordered something he hadn't done in weeks. A formal roll call, not on instinct, but out of fear. A need to confirm every man on Ghostline was still human. The Marines gathered in the center of the outpost, shaken, exhausted, eyes hollow, rifles tight in their grips. Reyes stood in front of them, holding a clipboard like a shield, breath heavy, hands trembling just slightly. "All right," he muttered. "Everyone sound off, one by one." The men nodded, a small gesture. But the outpost felt it. The hill felt it. The things beneath the ground felt it. Reyes cleared his throat. "Corporal Jensen? Here. Private Lewis? Here. Corporal Dixon? Here. Private Morris? Here." Then Reyes spoke the next name, and the air grew colder. "Private Ramirez." Silence. Reyes frowned. "Ramirez, sound off." No response. Morris whispered, "Sarge, Ramirez is sleeping in the far tent. He's off duty." Reyes sighed. "Fine, move on." He glanced at the next name on the list, a name he had read 100 times, a name that belonged on the roll call. Lance Corporal Hale. Another silence, but this silence felt different, heavier, wrong. Lewis whispered, "Sarge, Hale isn't here anymore." Reyes stopped breathing. Hale had been transferred off Ghostline 2 weeks ago. Evacuated for medical reasons, he was hundreds of miles away. Before Reyes could cross the name off, a voice drifted through the group. Soft, slow, clear. "Here." Every Marine froze. Dixon whispered, "Who said that?" No one stepped forward. No one raised a hand. No one moved. The voice came again, stronger, louder. "Here," Jensen snapped. "Answer me! Who the hell is saying that?" Silence. A silence that felt like it was waiting, watching, smiling. Reyes swallowed, his voice shaky. "Hale is not here. He's gone. Who answered for him?" The radios activated, every single one, flickering to life. Static filled the air, a slow, pulsing hiss, like breath, like something waking up. Then a voice spoke through every speaker. Hale's voice. Perfect. Identical. Impossible. Sarge." The men stepped back, hands shaking, hearts pounding. Morris whispered, "But Hale's not dead, so how?" The radios answered. "Not dead, not here, but watching." Reyes staggered. "What the hell does that mean?" The radios crackled, voices layering, stacking, merging. "Watching, watching, watching you." Lewis dropped his rifle, stumbling backward. "Sarge, it's learning the roster." Reyes looked at the men, then at the radios, then at the black ridge above the outpost, where something seemed to shift, something tall, thin, motionless. The hill wasn't just mimicking voices, or footsteps, or movements. It was learning names, identities, roles, positions. It wasn't haunting the outpost. It was replacing it, one Marine at a time. By the 13th incident, the men of Ghostline already knew something was terribly wrong with the hill, but they still believed the one thing that kept them sane, that as long as they stayed together, they were still themselves. That belief died on a cold, gray morning, when the patrol came back, but not the way men come back. Reyes had sent a 3-man recon sweep Just before dawn, a short walk, a simple loop, barely outside the wire. Something to prove that the outpost wasn't falling apart. Jensen, Lewis, and a new Marine named Carter, a quiet kid, too new to be afraid yet. Radio check every 2 minutes, Reyes ordered. Call out anything unusual. They left, boots crunching softly along the ridgeline, NVGs glowing faint green, breath slow, controlled. For the first 10 minutes, everything was normal. Routine pings, static, footsteps. Then, at 064 phone, the patrol missed a check-in. Reyes frowned. Jensen, report. No reply. He tried again. Lewis, sound off. Silence. Reyes stiffened. Carter, do you copy? Static. Then the radio transmitted something. Not a voice, not even static, but breathing, slow, wet, close to the mic. Reyes whispered, "Everyone gear up. Move." They rushed toward the ridgeline, guns raised, eyes scanning. Then Lewis appeared, walking calmly over the hill, alone. "Lewis," Reyes yelled, "where's the rest of the patrol?" Lewis didn't answer. He kept walking, steady, slow. Jensen came next, walking the exact same pace, exact same stride, perfectly synchronized with Lewis. Reyes's breath caught. Two men never walk in the exact same rhythm. Not naturally. Then Carter appeared. Same pace, same posture, same blank stride. Reyes shouted, "Marines, stop where you are!" They didn't stop. They kept walking, down the slope, toward the outpost, like puppets on invisible strings. Lewis reached the wire, Jensen behind him, Carter last, and only then, under the weak morning sun. Did Reyes notice the worst detail? Their faces weren't faces. Not exactly. They looked like Lewis, and Jensen, and Carter, but wrong. Too smooth, too static, too expressionless, as if someone had sculpted the idea of a face, but hadn't finished. Reyes stepped back. What happened to you?" Lewis blinked. Once. Slow, mechanical. Then his mouth moved, but the voice that came out was not his, not human. "We went walking." Jensen spoke next. Same tone, same cadence, same hollow echo. "He saw you." Carter spoke last, his voice cracking like dry leaves. "You were sleeping." Reyes felt the world tilt. "We were at the outpost. None of us left." The three Marines stepped closer, simultaneously, perfectly aligned. Lewis whispered, "That's what we said, too." Reyes snapped, "Stand down. Stand down now." All three tilted their heads, same angle, same timing, as if listening to an order from somewhere else, somewhere deep, somewhere underground. Then they spoke together, one voice, three mouths, no emotion. "We came back wrong." Silence fell, thick, heavy, suffocating. When Reyes finally reached out, placed a trembling hand on Lewis's shoulder, he felt it. Not muscle, not warmth, not life, but something cold, smooth, and hollow underneath. Something wearing a human shape, trying to remember how a man felt, and failing. After the patrol returned wrong, Reyes ordered all three men quarantined. Not officially, not written, just instinct, fear disguised as protocol. They were placed in the supply tent, a space with only one entrance, one lamp, one guard. Lewis, Jensen, Carter sat quietly on their cots, hands folded, eyes unfocused, faces still too smooth, too still, like masks waiting for expressions they didn't understand. Reyes stood outside, arms crossed, jaw tight, Dixon, you guard the flap. Nobody goes in or out until we figure out what's happening. Dixon nodded, but his hands trembled. The sun fell, shadows stretched, and Ghostline grew cold. Then the tapping began, soft, rhythmic, on the outside of the tent wall. Tap, tap, tap. Reyes stiffened. "What the hell is that?" Dixon whispered. "It's coming from the backside, the dark side." The tapping grew louder, more deliberate, as if a finger, or something pretending to be a finger, was tracing the canvas. Lewis's voice drifted from inside. "It's here for us." Reyes froze. "Who's here?" Lewis didn't answer. He just stared at the back of the tent. Unblinking, the tapping moved, slowly, following the length of the canvas, dragging, scraping, like a hand was circling the tent, searching, learning. Carter whispered. "Don't let it in," Jensen added, "and it wants to finish us." Reyes hissed at Dixon. "Do not open that flap." Dixon nodded, sweat running down his neck. The tapping stopped. Silence. Heavy, expectant. Then, something pressed against the canvas. From the outside, a shape. Tall, thin, looming. Its outline distorted. Wrong proportions. Head tilted too far. Arms too long. It leaned in. Slowly, quietly. As if sniffing, or listening, or remembering. Jensen whispered from inside. "Followed us back," Lewis added. "Doesn't know how to be us yet." The shape pushed harder. The canvas strained inward, swaying, stretching, as if a hand, or a face, pressed against it. Dixon whispered, "Sarge, it's trying to come inside." Reyes raised his rifle. "Whatever you are, you're not coming into my tent." The shape froze, perfectly still. Then, in one smooth motion, it slid downward, like water, like melting shadow, pooling at the base of the tent. Lewis gasped. Don't look. Don't look when it changes shape." The pooled shadow rose, reforming, twisting upward without joints, without bones. Dixon stumbled back. "Sarge, it's learning a new shape. Right now." The thing pressed against the flap. Softly, curiously, Reyes shouted, "Step back! Step back! No!" The flap moved. Just an inch. Just enough to show blackness. A hollow depth. A chasm instead of a doorway. Then the radios across the outpost activated. All at once. "Let me in." The voice was none of theirs. Not Lewis. Not Jensen. Not Carter. Not Reyes. Not any human. It was layered. Dry. Like a throat made of dust. "Let me in." The canvas bulged inward. The zipper trembled. The air turned freezing. And then, as suddenly as it had come, the thing retreated, backing away, step by step, its long shadow peeling from the tent like wet paint. Reyes didn't breathe until the shape vanished into the rocks. Jensen whispered inside. "It's not done with us," Lewis added. "Next time, it won't ask." And Carter, voice trembling, said what all of them feared. "It wants to wear one of us better." Reyes had been strong for weeks. Strong for the men, strong for the outpost, strong even when the hill whispered in familiar voices. But Ghostline was patient, and that night, it decided to break the strongest man on the ridge. It began at 0117. A quiet hour, cold, still. Reyes sat alone in the command tent, boots off, hands pressed against his eyes, trying to push away exhaustion. Then a voice came from outside, strong, firm, commanding, his own. "Reyes, get out here." Reyes stiffened. He hadn't spoken. He hadn't moved. He hadn't called anyone. He grabbed his rifle, stood, listened. The voice came again. Identical. Impossible. Reyes, now! Reyes stepped outside, rifle raised, but the outpost was empty, completely, deadly, silent. He whispered, "Who's out there?" His own voice answered, from the darkness, from between the Hesco walls. "I am." Reyes's blood turned cold. He aimed into the shadows. "Come into the light, slowly." Bootsteps echoed, heavy, measured, matching his weight, matching his stride. Then a silhouette appeared, tall, broad, same posture, same shape. It stepped into the weak glow of the lamp, and Reyes felt his knees weaken, because he was staring at himself. Same uniform, same rank, same torn sleeve, same small scar under the left eye. Every detail. Perfect, except the face. Too smooth, too still, too symmetrical. Like someone had learned what a face should look like, but hadn't learned how to wear it. The copy spoke. Same tone, same cadence, same breath. "Stand down, Sergeant," Reyes whispered. "No." The double stepped forward. "You're tired. Rest. Let me take over." Reyes stepped back, rifle trembling. "You're not real." The copy tilted its head, exactly like he did when thinking. Perfect mimicry. "Are you?" Reyes felt something primal rise in his chest. Fear, rage, recognition. He shouted, "Stay back! You're not me!" The double smiled. A slow, unnatural stretch. Mouth widening too far. Teeth too even. "I'm better." Then the radios across the outpost activated. Every channel. Every speaker. All at once. Reyes. Layered, stacked, echoing. Voices of the men. Voices of the missing. Voices of the hill. Dozens of them. All speaking his name. All calling him. The copy stepped closer. "I can lead them. You don't have to suffer anymore." Reyes backed up, heart racing, mind burning. Dixon and Lewis burst from their tents, seeing two Reyes, both armed, both identical. Dixon yelled, "Sarge, which one is you?" Reyes lifted his rifle, voice cracking. "Shoot the one that smiles." The copy lunged, too fast, too fluid. Bones bending wrong, joints twisting. Lewis fired. The round passed through the copy, as if through smoke. The creature stopped, looked down, tilted its head, then spoke in Reyes's voice. Calm, soft. "That hurt your heart more than your bullet." And before anyone could move, it dissolved, collapsing inward, folding like a shadow being erased, sinking into the dirt, leaving nothing, not even a footprint. Reyes fell to his knees, shaking, breathing hard. Dixon grabbed him. "Sarge, you okay?" Reyes whispered. No, I'm not." Then he added, voice low, terrified. "It didn't want to kill me. It wanted to replace me." By the 16th incident, sleep had become a myth. A rumor passed between exhausted men. Something they remembered from another life. Reyes barely spoke. Jensen twitched at every noise. Morris prayed under his breath. Lewis kept checking his own reflection as if making sure he was still himself. And Ghostline watched them, learning, waiting. The breaking point came at 03 Guguro, a dead hour, when the world feels paused, when shadows seem thicker than air. Jensen was on radio watch, eyes half open, hands trembling over the console. Then he heard it, a whisper, soft, level, almost gentle. Incoming transmission? Jensen frowned. No one had keyed a mic. No one had spoken. The radio crackled. Then a voice came through. But not a voice from now, a voice from later. "Lewis, get down!" Jensen blinked. "Lewis isn't even on patrol." The radio continued. Dixon, behind you. Jensen stiffened. Dixon wasn't behind anyone. He was asleep. Then Reyes's voice came through, but older, rougher, tired. We're surrounded. Fall back. Fall back. Jensen shot to his feet. Sarge, wake up. Reyes burst into the tent. What now? The radio answered, in Reyes's voice, but bleeding with panic. Reyes is hit. Repeat. Reyes is down. Reyes went pale. That's not me. Lewis ran in next, eyes wide, sweat pouring down his temples. Sarge, I heard myself screaming on my channel, but I wasn't screaming. The radio kept going, voices overlapping, panicked, broken, human. Jensen, don't leave me. I can't feel my legs. They're inside the wire. Where's Lewis? Where's Lewis? Reyes is gone, Morris whispered. Sarge, those are us. Those are our voices. Jensen shook his head violently. No, that's not possible. That hasn't happened. That hasn't happened yet. Then a sound cut through the chatter. A brutal, ragged scream. One they all recognized. Dixon's. Dixon stumbled into the tent, white as bone, hands shaking uncontrollably. That wasn't me. I didn't scream. I didn't. The radio cut him off, with his exact voice, screaming again, longer, louder, ending with a sickening crunch. Dixon collapsed, sobbing. What does that mean? What does that mean? Reyes forced himself to speak. It's mimicking possible scenarios. It's messing with us. But the radio corrected him, in a new voice, a voice none of them had ever heard, a voice that sounded like dirt shifting, like rocks grinding, like breath through a hole in the earth. Not scenarios. The radios popped, lights flickered, dust shook loose. Memories, Reyes shouted. Memories of what? The voice answered, slow, cold, certain. Yours. After, Lewis whispered. After what? The voice finished. After tonight. The radio shut off, all at once, silencing the men in a way no human enemy ever could. Because Ghostline hadn't just shown them fear, it had shown them their own deaths, as if the hill had already lived through them, as if it remembered how they died, even though they were still standing, for now. After hearing their own deaths, the outpost changed, not physically, not visibly, but something in the air shifted, a pressure, a heaviness, like the hill itself was leaning closer. The men stopped talking, stopped joking, stopped pretending they weren't afraid. Every movement became cautious, slow, measured, as if noise alone might wake something beneath their boots. Reyes sat on an ammo crate beside the main tent, hands clasped, eyes hollow, trying to steady his breathing. Jensen approached quietly. Sarge, what do we do now? Reyes didn't answer, not at first, because for the first time since Ghostline began whispering, he didn't know. Finally, he whispered, We hold. We stay together. No one leaves the wire again. Ever. Jensen nodded, but the fear in his eyes never faded. Inside the tents, the others packed their gear tight, checked ammo, cleaned rifles that weren't dirty, hands shaking with every movement. Lewis muttered under his breath. They weren't showing the future. They were replaying something. Morris swallowed. Replay from where? From when? Lewis stared at the ground. From after we die. Silence. Thick, stifling. Dixon finally spoke. We aren't dying here. Not on this hill. Not like that. But his voice cracked, and everyone heard it. Outside, the wind picked up, a low, cold sweep across the rocks, carrying dust and something else, a faint sound, a hum, a vibration, like distant voices chanting under the earth. Reyes rose slowly, jaw tight, eyes scanning the ridgeline. That's new. Jensen listened, head tilted, face draining of color. Sarge, that sounds like multiple radios transmitting at once, but none of their radios were on. None of their gear was activated. Everything was powered down since the last incident. Reyes whispered, "Those aren't our radios." The wind carried the sound again, longer, clearer, as if dozens of distant speakers were whispering from beneath the dirt. "Reyes, Lewis, Dixon, Jenna," their names, all of them, called softly, rhythmically, like a roll call. Morris pressed a hand to his chest. "Sarge, I don't think the hill is remembering us anymore," Lewis whispered. "Think it's practicing us." Reyes's breath hitched. He looked at the men, then at the ridgeline, where a faint, unnatural glow shimmered, pale, colorless, almost like moonlight, but the moon hadn't risen. Reyes raised his rifle. "Gear up, now. Whatever's coming, this is the last calm we're getting." The wind stopped, instantly, abruptly, as if someone had closed a door on the world, and Ghostline fell silent. Too silent. A silence that tasted like static. The men felt it. Every one of them. A shared, sinking certainty. The hill wasn't waiting anymore. It wasn't whispering. It wasn't learning. It was ready. Ready for whatever came next. Ready for them. Ready to finish what it had started. The 18th incident began with a vibration. Not sound. Not movement. Just a subtle tremor in the earth. Like the ground itself exhaled. Every Marine felt it. Through their boots. Through their bones. Through the thin air settling over Ghostline like a shroud. Reyes crouched beside the sandbags. Rifle raised. Eyes locked on the ridgeline. "Positions. Nobody fires unless I call it." The men moved. Quiet. Precise. Every breath a measured decision. Then the fog rose. But not natural fog. Not moisture. Not weather. This fog rolled out of the rocks, pouring between the cracks. Thick, slow, pale. As if something beneath the mountain had begun to breathe upward. Lewis whispered, "Sarge, the fog's coming from the ground." Jensen swallowed. "Since when does the earth breathe?" No one answered, because a moment later, the radios snapped on. All of them. Dead equipment. Unplugged units. Even an old broken handheld no one had touched in months. Every speaker hummed. Low. Deep. Like the opening note of some ancient instrument. Reyes hissed, "Stay sharp." The hum shifted, layered, growing into something that resembled speech, but not in any language a human throat could produce. A resonance, a vibration, a pulse that felt like it was bypassing their ears and going straight into their skulls. Morris clutched his head. "Sarge, it's speaking inside my head." The fog thickened, swirling, curling around the tents, around the Marines, as if tasting them. The radios pulsed, and the voice finally broke through. Clear, cold, ancient. "You stay." Lewis staggered. No, that's not a voice. That's not a human voice." The fog spiraled, rising in thin columns, like fingers, like limbs. Reyes shouted, "Identify yourself, now!" The voice responded, slow, certain, as if choosing words carefully. "You stay, here." Dixon backed up. "What does that mean? What does it want?" The fog shifted again, forming vague humanoid shapes, unfinished, bleeding into the night, as if the hill were trying to assemble bodies from memory. The voice deepened. "You stay, become, ye..." Jensen's breath hitched. "It's trying to absorb us." Then the radios erupted. all at once. Dozens of voices, all overlapping, all terrifyingly familiar. Reyes, Lewis, Jensen, Morris, Dixon, Carter. Voices of the living, voices of the missing, voices they had never heard but recognized instantly. Their own voices, speaking sentences none of them had spoken yet. "Help me. Don't leave me here. It's inside me. Sarge, Sarge, Sarge. We're already gone," Lewis screamed. "Stop it! Stop using my voice!" The fog collapsed inward, swirling into a single point, right in the center of the outpost. The radios went silent. Every light flickered. Every man froze. Then the voice spoke one last sentence. Alone, unlayered, perfectly clear. "You cannot leave." Reyes felt his heart drop. The hill wasn't threatening them. It was announcing a fact, a truth, a conclusion. Ghostline had been learning, testing, shaping, preparing, and now it was ready to keep them, ready to take them, ready to finish what it had begun. When the hill finally spoke, something inside the men snapped. Not courage, not sanity, something deeper. The part of a soldier that believes the world still works the way it should. Reyes felt it first, a pressure behind his eyes, a weight in his chest, like the outpost itself had placed a hand on his shoulder. Jensen stumbled backward. No, Sarge. It said we can't leave. It said we're staying." Lewis pressed both hands to his ears, but the voice wasn't in their ears. It was inside, like the hill had found a door into their heads. Morris whispered, "I can hear it breathing." Reyes spun toward him. "What breathing?" Morris pointed at the dirt, the cold, dead, unmoving dirt. "Beneath us." The fog pulsed, like a lung. In, out. The ground vibrated, low, steady, like something massive shifting under the surface. Then the radios snapped on, but not with voices this time, with heartbeats, heavy, slow, wet, echoing through every speaker. Dixon shouted, "Sarge, the hill's alive! It's alive!" The fog shattered, exploding upward in a column, reaching toward the sky, casting long skeletal shadows across the outpost. Reyes yelled, "Fall back to the command tent! Move!" The Marines scattered, boots pounding the dirt, shadows stretching and twisting under their feet. But the fog followed, pouring through gaps, flowing over sandbags, sliding across the ground like water. Lewis tripped, screamed, "Sarge, it grabbed me! Something grabbed me!" Reyes dragged him up. "There's nothing there." But the earth trembled, and a shape rose beside them. Tall, thin, human-shaped, but unfinished, like a figure sculpted from dust. Its head bowed, limbs hanging, mouth gaping open like a cracked canyon. The radios exploded with noise, their own voices, their own screams, their own breaths. "Girea, Lewis, Jensen, Morris, Dean." As if the hill were calling its collection, checking inventory, counting the men it was about to take. Jensen fired, rounds ripping through the dust figure, but the bullets passed through, hissing, vanishing. The creature lifted its head, joints cracking like dry earth, eyes opening, empty, colorless, too wide. Lewis screamed, "It's wearing our faces. It's wearing all our faces at once." And it was, its features shifting, blurring, becoming Reyes, then Jensen, then Dixon, then a perfect copy of Morris. Dixon yelled, "It's choosing one of us. It's picking a form." The ground convulsed. Dust spiraled. The fog figure stepped forward, mouth splitting into an impossible smile. "We start. Now." Reyes shoved the men back. "Retreat to the tent. Move." The Marines sprinted, falling over crates, slamming into walls, breathing ragged. The fog surged, chasing them, reaching, flowing. The ground cracked, a deep split opening like a wound, hot air rushing out, and a chorus of voices rose. Thousands of them, layered, indistinguishable, human, inhuman. Voices of soldiers, voices of the lost, voices that never belonged to anything living. Day. Reyes screamed. Inside! Inside! Barricade everything! They dove into the command tent, slamming crates, tables, ammo cans. The fog crashed against the canvas, pressing, testing, learning the shape of the entrance. Lewis sobbed. It's trying to come in. Sarge, it's trying every way in. The voices outside synchronized. One echo, one sentence. You cannot leave. And for the first time since the nightmare began, Reyes believed it. Ghostline wasn't a haunting, wasn't an echo, wasn't a mimic. It was a trap, a living, breathing trap, designed to learn its prey until it could take them, and the break had begun. The command tent shook under the weight of whatever clawed at the canvas. Not hands, not nails, something softer, like fog pressing with intention. Reyes shoved a crate against the flap, his breath ragged, hands trembling. Jensen, get the long-range radio online, now! Jensen scrambled across the floor, sliding past ammo cans, fingers shaking as he powered up the battered set. Sarge, it won't turn on. The battery's dead. Reyes slammed his fist against the metal. Nothing is dead tonight. Try again. The fog outside surged, canvas bowing inward, a deep vibration humming through the stakes, like the hill itself was knocking. Lewis whispered, It's going to get in. Reyes roared, No, it won't. The long-range radio flickered. Once, twice, a dying light refusing to fade. Then, miraculously, it powered on, static rushing through the speaker like a gasp. Jensen grabbed the mic. Ghostline to command. We need immediate extraction. Repeat, immediate extraction. Hostile contact. Inside the wire. The radio cut him off. Silent. Then popped. A faint click. As if another signal had forced its way onto the frequency. A voice came through. But not command. Not friendly. A voice they all recognized. Their own. Layered. Blended. Twisted. You stay. Jensen dropped the mic. Sarge, it hijacked the transmission. Reyes grabbed the handset. Command, this is Sergeant Reyes of Ghostline. If you can hear us, we are compromised. Unknown, hostile, non-human. We need... Static exploded. A roar of white noise. Then a second voice bled through. Calm, human, far away. Ghostline, we read you. Faint. Reyes gasped. Yes, command, we need... But the hostile voice interrupted, snarling through the speaker. Ooh, no leave. The two signals tangled, human and inhuman, fighting for the same frequency. The speaker whining under the pressure. Command. Reyes, confirm situation. Ghostline, he dies first. The men froze. The fog outside convulsed, pressing harder, testing the seams of the tent. Reyes shouted into the radio. Command, evacuate OP Rock immediately. Evacuate all posts along the ridge. I repeat, the hill is... Ghostline cut him off. Mine! A blistering burst of static tore through the speaker. Sparks flew. The radio smoked. Jensen screamed. Back! It's overheating! The long-range radio exploded. Small, violent, a burst of light and metal. The tent plunged into darkness. No radios, no lights, No connection to anyone, anywhere. Only the fog outside, and the voices beneath the dirt. Lewis whispered. "We're alone," Morris added. "The last transmission wasn't ours." Reyes pressed a hand to his chest, feeling the vibration in the ground, feeling the hill breathing under him. Then he said something none of the men ever forgot, not because of the words, but because of how calm he was. "Ghost Line did send a last transmission," Jensen whispered. "What did we send, Sarge?" Reyes stared at the glowing fog leaking under the canvas and answered, "Our deaths." The moment the long-range radio exploded, something changed in the air. Not just fear, not just panic, something deeper. A shift in the atmosphere, so heavy it felt like the world tilted. Reyes looked toward the tent entrance and saw the canvas ripple, not from wind. There was no wind, but from pressure, as if something was leaning on the other side. Lewis whispered, "There." The fog outside thickened, swirling in slow circles, pressing into the seams, finding every weakness. The zipper began to vibrate, soft at first, barely audible, then louder, rattling like teeth in a skull. Dixon leveled his rifle. "I swear to God, if that flap opens..." The fog surged. A violent, soundless slam. The entire tent frame bowed inward, metal stakes groaning, canvas stretching. The hill was pushing, not with hands, not with force, with itself, with the weight of something ancient, patient, and finally hungry. The radios, dead only seconds ago, flickered back to life. All at once, a single voice spoke through them, deep, gravel-thick, layered with echoes. "Let us in!" Reyes shouted. "No one moves! Hold your positions!" But Jensen was shaking uncontrollably, hands on his temples, eyes wide. "Sarge, it's inside my head. It's telling me to open it. It's telling me..." Reyes grabbed him. "Fight it! Do you hear me? Fight it!" The fog pressed again, harder. The canvas bowed inward almost to the breaking point. A shape appeared against the tent wall. Tall, thin, limbs too long, neck bent at an impossible angle. Its head scraped the top of the canvas, dragging slowly, deliberately, like it was listening through the fabric. Lewis dropped to his knees. "It found us. It finally found us." Morris backed into the corner. "We can't stop that. We can't stop any of that." The shape leaned closer, the outline of a face pressed into the canvas. But the face was wrong. Too many teeth, no eyes, a mouth that wasn't a mouth. Then it whispered, not through the radios, not through the ground, through the tent wall itself. "Reyes." Reyes staggered. His own name felt sharp, cutting, like it was being carved into the air. The voice continued. "You lead them. We take you first." Reyes raised his rifle. "Get away from my men!" He fired through the canvas, rounds tearing holes. The tent filled with dust, smoke. The silhouette didn't flinch, didn't react, didn't move. The bullets passed through it like through mist, hissing into the darkness outside. Then the shape melted, sliding downward, pooling at the base of the wall, spreading under the canvas, and rising inside. Fog surged into the tent, cold, wet, full of whispers, voices crawling along the floor. Lewis screamed, "It's in! It's in the tent!" Shapes formed out of the fog, half-finished people, faces incomplete, mouths not fully formed, shifting, blurring, trying to remember what humans looked like, trying to perfect the copies, trying to choose which Marine to replace first. Jensen fired, Dixon fired, Lewis fired. Bullets passed through the fog, dozens, hundreds. Useless. Reyes grabbed a flare, snapped it. A violent red bloom filled the tent. The fog recoiled, shrieking, not through radio, not through speakers, through every surface, the ground, the canvas, the air. Morris shouted, "It hates the light! Sarge, it hates the light!" Reyes threw the flare into the center of the tent. "Everyone back! Now!" The shapes folded, collapsed, retreated, screeching as they pulled into themselves, and the fog poured out the flap, out the seams, out of the cracks, racing back toward the ridge, like something wounded, something furious, something not done. Then, silence, heavy, total. The tent glowed with dying red light, smoke swirling, men gasping. Nobody spoke, nobody moved, until Reyes finally whispered. The hill got inside. Jensen shook his head. No, it chose to leave. Lewis looked at the flap, voice trembling. Next time, it won't leave. Reyes closed his eyes, breathing slow. Then there won't be a next time. And Ghostline waited, quiet, cold, listening, because now the hill knew every path inside, and the men knew there was only one thing left, one final stand, one final night, before the hill finished what it started. Ghostline had seen many terrors, voices mimicking the living, footsteps with no weight, faces that weren't faces, fog that moved with purpose, but nothing compared to the silence that settled after the hill entered the tent. A silence so absolute it felt alive, as if the world were holding its breath. Reyes paced the command tent, hands trembling, jaw locked. He knew what was coming. He could feel it in the cold, in the dirt, in the weight of the air. This wasn't another whispering attack, or mimic, or test. This was the end, the moment the hill had been building toward. Jensen sat against a crate, staring blankly at the floor, voice faint. "Sarge, what if we were never supposed to come here?" Reyes didn't answer. Some questions weren't meant to be answered, Lewis whispered. "It's been learning us for weeks." Morris added, "It knows how we talk, how we walk, how we sound, how we die." Silence, a single, suffocating blanket. Then the generator faltered, a low, dying sputter, lights dimming, flickering. Dixon looked up. No, not the generator. The lights flickered twice, then died. The outpost plunged into darkness, black, complete, bottomless. Lewis gasped. "It killed the power!" Jensen's voice cracked. "And if the generator's down, the radios..." But the radios turned on anyway. All of them. Powerless, unplugged, dead, yet glowing, faint green, like eyes opening in the dark. The speakers crackled, a soft, steady hum, like the sound of something ancient waking. Then a single voice came through, not human, not layered, not mimicked, the voice of the hill. "Come out," Reyes whispered. "We're not going anywhere." The voice responded, calm, cold. "Yes, you are." The tent walls began to breathe, expanding, contracting, canvas pulsing like lungs. Shapes formed in the darkness, tall, thin, colorless silhouettes pressing from outside, their outlines rippling like liquid shadow. Jensen screamed, "Lights! We need lights!" Reyes snapped another flare. A burst of red ripped through the darkness. The silhouettes recoiled, twisting, shrieking without sound, melting back into the fog. But the flare died too quickly. A sickening hiss. Lewis gasped. "It's stealing the light!" The fog pressed again, heavier, colder, almost solid. Dixon raised his rifle, pointing at the flap. "Whatever comes through there, we don't run, we don't panic, we fire." Reyes shook his head. No. Everyone turned, eyes wide. Reyes stepped forward, hands steady, breath calm. "We're not firing at shadows anymore. We're not shooting the dirt. We're not wasting rounds." He looked at each Marine, one by one. "This thing doesn't want our bullets." He swallowed, voice dropping. "It wants us." The fog surged, a violent explosion of pale mist, filling the tent, drowning the light. The radios screamed, every voice they had heard, every voice that had died, every mimic, every echo, all layered, all speaking at once. "Stay, stay, stay." Then, a deafening silence, so sudden it cut like a blade. The fog collapsed, sucked out through the seams, ripped away into the night, leaving the tent empty, cold, still. Lewis whispered, "Did it leave?" Reyes listened, eyes narrowing. "No." Jensen shook. "Then what is it doing?" Reyes answered, voice trembling for the first time. "It's taking the whole outpost." Outside, the ground rumbled, low, deep, like a leviathan turning beneath the earth. The tents shook, the walls sagged, the air shimmered with heat and cold at the same time. And then, Ghostline went dark. Not the lights, not the radios, not the equipment. The air, the very space around them, went dark, like something giant had cast a shadow over the entire world. Lewis screamed. Jensen collapsed. Dixon reached for the flap. And Reyes, voice breaking, whispered the final words spoken inside OP Ghostline. "Hold on to something." The darkness swallowed them whole. Weeks passed, then months, then years. Ghostline was officially listed as abandoned due to structural instability, a bureaucratic phrase that hides things the world isn't ready to understand. Reyes was transferred stateside, his record spotless, his eyes older, his voice quieter. Jensen left the Corps early. Medical reasons, night terrors, periods of dissociation. He never spoke about the hill again. Lewis moved to a small town, where the horizon was flat, where there were no ridgelines to cast shadows, where nothing breathed beneath the dirt. Morris simply disappeared, not vanished, not missing. He just stopped answering calls, stopped responding to emails, like a man trying to outrun something that remembered him. None of them stayed in touch, except sometimes, when the nightmares returned, when a shape appeared in a dream, tall, thin, faceless. Then one of them would break, dial a number, wait for the ring, and on the other end, a familiar voice, tired, frail. "You heard it too tonight, didn't you?" Because Ghostline didn't forget them. Ghostline didn't release them. Ghostline didn't die when the Outpost did. Satellite photos show the hill unchanged, a mound of stone and dust, cold, still, empty. But sometimes, when analysts review thermal scans, they see something wrong, a spot colder than the earth around it, perfectly circular, exactly the size of the command tent. And sometimes, just sometimes, a figure stands on the ridgeline above it, tall, thin, motionless, facing where the tent once stood, as if watching, as if waiting, as if listening for the next patrol foolish enough to build there, foolish enough to offer voices to mimic, faces to wear, bodies to learn, because some outposts don't sleep. Some outposts aren't abandoned. Some outposts are alive, and Ghostline is one of them. I'm Captain Nightwhisper, and if you ever find yourself walking a lonely perimeter, if the air turns cold, if the ground hums, if a voice calls your name that shouldn't know it, don't answer, don't look, don't speak, because the hill remembers, and once it learns your voice, it never lets you go.